Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm just gonna film a pregnancy bump date video and just kind of talk about how this first pregnancy has gone for me from week 0 to week 22, which is where I am now. I really wanted to talk about my first trimester and how that went, because that can be really hard for a lot of people, and hopefully I can find some people out there who can relate, or someone who's going through their first trimester and just needs some relatability, someone to relate to about that, because it can be pretty rough. And then just kind of update from there how my symptoms have gone and how everything's kind of changed and just how I've been feeling through this pregnancy. So starting, I just have my phone here, and I will start with some notes that I took. So starting with week 0, which is technically you're not even pregnant yet, but week 0 to 4, I didn't really have any symptoms before we found out that I was pregnant. I'd had a miscarriage 2 months before, so 8 weeks before I got pregnant. And with that pregnancy, I had really sore and tender breasts. The sides of my breasts were really tender. And then with my first cycle after that miscarriage, I didn't have tender breasts, which I thought was weird because I usually do regularly get pretty sore boobs before my period. But I didn't with my period when my period came back after my miscarriage. And then with this baby, I had sore boobs again. And so that was the only really thing that I noticed. I did test really early just because we were trying, and I'd been testing early every month that we'd tried. And with our first pregnancy, I found out we were pregnant at 3 weeks and a couple days. And with this pregnancy, I actually tested that early and didn't get a positive, but got a positive a few days later. And a thing I noticed between my last pregnancy and this pregnancy, my hands look really tan at that angle. They're not. Anyway, a difference between my last pregnancy and this pregnancy that I noticed was my tests got way darker a lot quicker. So with my first pregnancy that ended in a miscarriage at almost 8 weeks, 7 weeks and a couple days, my tests did they got dark, and they were obviously positive, but they took a long time for them to get dark, and my HCG was really low at 5 weeks when we tested it. And with this pregnancy, we decided not to test my HCG because it caused a lot of stress and worry when we had done it. But my test got super dark really quickly, so that was kind of reassuring. I don't really think it means anything. I think you could get super dark tests and still miscarry. I think you can have really light tests and still have a perfectly healthy pregnancy, but that's just something that I noticed between the two that was different. And so yeah, so from 4 weeks, I didn't have any symptoms at that point, just like I said, the sore boobs. And yeah, I was really excited. I was super happy to be pregnant again. We got pregnant really quite quickly after our miscarriage, which we feel really lucky to have had the trying to conceive journey that we did, and the journey to this baby and this pregnancy that we did. And so from finding out, I took a test, just one of those cheap Walmart tests was the first test I took, and the line was super faint. But it was there, and I knew that meant I was pregnant. It's really rare to get a false positive pregnancy test. So last time I was pregnant, I told my husband over FaceTime that we were pregnant, and he was going to school. And so this time when I took the test, I was like, oh, I'm gonna surprise him. I really want to like surprise him somehow and like have it be this fun, cute thing. But he ended up having a job interview that day and called me after it was over, and I just couldn't keep it in. So I ended up telling my husband over the phone that we were pregnant again, and then from there we kind of shared with my mom and his mom, and kind of more slowly than we did with our first pregnancy. We were super excited to be pregnant again, but just like with a loss, I think it makes you a little bit more tentative to like share that news, especially for me because I have younger siblings, younger sisters, and so I was like not wanting to put them through that again if we did have another miscarriage. But we did want to tell like our moms, especially, like they were super supportive during our miscarriage, and we would have wanted them to know if we were having a second one anyway. So we told them. They were super happy, and it was just like super exciting. And yeah, just slowly kind of trickled through the rest of our family that we were expecting again. And yeah, we were feeling really good. Like I felt pretty confident from the beginning of this pregnancy that this baby was going to be okay. So yeah, so those were the first month. The second month I started getting morning sickness. I would like pretty lightly around 5 or 6 weeks, I would say, and then from there it just kind of progressively got worse. And for me, morning sickness wasn't actually ever in the morning, because I think it's just because I was working full time, and so in the morning, like I needed to be up, and my body needed to be like up and ready to go and like ready to get work done during the day and like commute. And so I would feel okay in the morning, and then like progressively through the day I would feel worse and worse, and then as soon as I got home and it was like I can relax, then I would feel really sick. And so I never threw up, which I'm super blessed, and like I know my morning sickness was super like mild compared to how some people get it, but when you have like all day morning sickness, you're almost in this feeling of like, I wish I could just throw up and feel better and just get it over with, like in the morning. Like that's how I felt. I really just wished I could have like gotten sick in the morning and just been done with it for the rest of the day, instead of like just progressively feeling horrible like throughout the day. Was not very fun. And so I was super lucky to not get sick, but I was like physically get sick and like throw up in the toilet or wherever. But I was super exhausted, and of course you get like that weird frequent urination in the first trimester. That just has to do with like your body changing, and so I was up all hours of the night peeing all the time, and then just like feeling really sick. And of course when you're feeling sick, you're like not eating really well, because like cooking smells really bugged me. So like none of these symptoms were like signs that I was pregnant before we knew, but like once we knew and I was having all these symptoms, like they were definitely related to pregnancy, because I just like could not cook. Like cooking meat was gross. We ate a lot of like macaroni and cheese, like organic macaroni and cheese from the grocery store, and like chicken tenders, because they were easy and I didn't have to like stand over the stove and cook them. Like Gavin could put them together. And then we have this one like meal that my grandma used to make when we were little kids. We call it one pot, but it's just like kielbasa and like sausage and potatoes and broccoli with cheese on top. And we ate that a lot too, just because like Gavin can cook it. It's super easy, and it wasn't like overwhelming for me to cook that. So we ate, yeah, and then Gavin's working at a pizza restaurant at the time, so we ate pizza. And then sometimes I would like pick up food on my way home from work too. So we had like, and we never eat fast food. We eat fast food very occasionally, like if we have an appointment and we're out and we need to eat fast food, or if we're traveling, we eat fast food, but that's really, sorry, excuse me. That's really the only times we ever eat fast food, but we were like picking up fast food because I just could not cook. Like, was super not into cooking. That was like that like second month of pregnancy and a little bit into the third as well. Yeah, just, it was not very fun. So if you're in the first trimester, we feel you. It sucks. It's like the least fun part of pregnancy. And then at the same time, you know, that first trimester is scary because your risk of having a miscarriage is the highest during those first like 12 weeks. And then, you're like not, it's just confusing. It's a confusing time because you want to be really excited and like happy that you're pregnant, especially if you've been trying. Like, you want to feel happy, but you like feel like crap, and then you have to like worry if you're gonna have a miscarriage, and that's just super not fun. So yeah, so the second month we met with our midwife at 8 weeks, and that went really well. We hired a home birth midwife in Washington when we were living there, and so we met with her pretty briefly, I think, and did like the initial blood work and like just talked with her about what our plan was. And then we also got a first trimester ultrasound, and I'm kind of crunchy, like, you know, we're having a natural birth. I don't know, we're just like pretty natural, and I probably wouldn't have gotten a first trimester ultrasound if I hadn't miscarried. So I think because when I miscarried, we went to the emergency room and I had to have a ultrasound, like a transvaginal ultrasound, which is really like put a probe up there so they can like see better. They're just more accurate. So I had to have a ultrasound when we miscarried, and there was nothing on it. And I think just having that like reassurance in the first trimester that there was actually a baby in there and like things were going well was more beneficial than not getting it. Like, it just eased a lot of stress that I was feeling. And so we had an ultrasound. I think I was like 8 weeks and a few days, probably almost 9 weeks. I think it was 8 weeks and 5 days. And yeah, everything was perfect. The baby was measuring exactly where they needed to be measuring, like perfectly on date, and heart rate was great, and the baby was super, super active in our first ultrasound. So we were really, really excited, and it was like amazing, and really nice just to have that like peace of mind. So yeah, so then we're going into the third month, and so from like 9 weeks to 12 weeks, nothing really changed. I was still pretty sick, like pretty not feeling very well, and we started deciding on baby names. So we have a name picked out for a boy and a name picked out for a girl, and then we had another midwife appointment. That went really well and everything was fine. And then around 12 weeks, I started to feel, 12 or 13, I started to feel the baby move a little bit, which was amazing and weird. And when they're like that little and you're just feeling like very small fluttery movements, it's super strange. Because you're like kind of not sure. You're like, is that like a gas bubble, or are my muscles just twitching? But I was pretty sure I was feeling the baby. And then we are month 4. I was great. My morning sickness went away around 14 weeks. Yeah, we had 4th of July and like Gavin's parents visited, and I was kind of getting like lingering evening sickness and like tiredness and just not feeling good. But then it pretty much went away after that, and so that was awesome, and I was feeling like super, super good. And then as soon as my morning sickness went away, I started having like some insomnia, just having trouble like falling asleep at night, and then if I wasn't getting enough sleep, I would get headaches. And so my midwife recommended to take naps during the day, and then I also started sleeping with like a mask on my face to just block out extra light and like extra just like visual stimulation. and that really helped, and that ended up going away, and I've been sleeping tons better. And so from there we enter like month 5-ish, and I'm like in month 6 now, but through month 5 we have been super busy, super busy. So we moved, and before we moved I got a UTI and I had to take antibiotics, and my belly's been growing like crazy. Like it definitely started to pop around 12 weeks, which I was not expecting, and I don't think that's really like normal or average for a first baby, but for some reason my belly just popped out, and yeah, so I had a UTI, I had to take antibiotics. That was kind of scary and like I don't know, just weird, because you just don't want to have an infection while you're pregnant. But the antibiotics went really well, and it's been fine ever since. The only thing was it was kind of like non-symptomatic. I didn't really have any signs of having a UTI, but we just kind of tested it to be safe, because I have like a history of UTIs. Just as a kid I got them really often, and so I asked my midwife just to like test and just to be sure I wasn't having one. And yeah, and when we moved I was like 19 weeks pregnant. Yeah, I was 19 weeks pregnant when we moved. Move went really smoothly. I didn't really have to do a lot of work. It was kind of like stressful the weeks leading up to our move, just to have like stuff everywhere, and like you get into the second trimester and that's when all the nesting starts happening, and so we were like uprooting our life in this time when I was like slowly starting to transition into that feeling of like wanting to have everything like set up and like, you know, just like established for the baby, and we're like totally uprooting all of our life in that time. And so now that we're like in our place where we'll be when the baby comes, like it feels a lot better. But yeah, that was a little uncomfortable, and then like, you know, you just feel kind of useless when you're pregnant and you can't like help pack boxes. So I like cleaned windows and like swept and did stuff as my in-laws came up to help us move. And so like as they were like packing everything up, I was kind of like helping, I don't know, coordinate and then like tidying the whole time too, so that I didn't feel so useless during that process. Let's see. And so yeah, so with moving and being almost halfway through my pregnancy, we had to hire a new care practitioner, like either an OB or a midwife. We needed to hire someone, and so we did research before we even decided to move on like what our options were in this area. And there aren't any home birth midwives, but there is a really awesome birth center, and so we called them really early. We had like just decided to move, and we're still even kind of like waiting on paperwork to really be sure that we were moving. And so we called them anyway, just to like be sure that there was, excuse me, no chance that I wouldn't have care down here. And we got in to see them, and we just hired them right away. Like we feel super good that we feel super secure there, and I just really like that model of care. My mom had a midwife with all my younger sisters growing up, so that's what I feel really comfortable with, and I think being in hospital would have been really uncomfortable for me. So we went from having like a home birth plan to having a birth center birth plan, and that really hasn't like changed much. It's just gonna be a little weird logistically because the birth center is like an hour away, so we have to go back for a 24-hour checkup the next day after the baby's born. And so we're gonna stay with some family that's like down in the city where the birth center is, and then come home the next day, so 2 days after the baby gets here, I think is the plan right now. And it also depends, because the baby's gonna be born in winter, what I-5 looks like what the weather looks like. There's a couple passes, they're not like insane, and I-5 is really well traveled, so we feel like super safe with our choice. But like coming home will just depend on what the weather looks like. and that's fine. I don't feel very worried about that at all. Yeah, so we had to change our birth plan, and then right before we moved, we also got our anatomy scan. So we've been keeping the baby's gender a secret for a whole month, and we told my mom, Gavin's dad, Gavin's younger brother, who is in Japan and won't be able to be at our gender reveal, and then my grandma accidentally knows because I let it slip to her. So yeah, so we've been keeping that a secret. It's been super hard because we just want to talk about it, and then it's like hard because we're casually discussing the baby and like, you know, the baby's name and everything, and like the decorations for the nursery and yada yada yada, just like casually talking about the baby amongst each other and like in our home, and then we can't do that when we're around family. So it's a little hard, but we're super excited because our gender reveal is in a couple days. It's at the end of this week, so we won't have to do that anymore, and yeah, it'll be awesome. And then just this week, so I'm 22 weeks this week, week 22, we hired a doula who is a family friend of my mother-in-law's. She's also a yoga instructor here, and she's super awesome, and we feel really comfortable with her because we've known her, like I've known her since I met Gavin, and Gavin's known her a while, I think, and she's awesome, and she's gonna provide us with so much care and like so much support. I'm so stoked and so excited to have her just be a part of our birth and like that experience, and I think she makes like a really good addition to our birth team. Mostly, I mean, as a doula myself, like I know how important doulas are to birth and like birth outcomes and just like what they can do and provide for clients, and I thought it was important for us to have a doula, even though I have doula training, because I know that like once you're actually in labor, it's a whole new ball game, and I don't want all of that training to just like fly out the window, and for my husband to not be supported, even though we have like awesome midwives, and I think that we would be fine. I just think like she's gonna provide us like that extra level of like reassurance and care that is so important. And then last but not least, I've just been feeling the baby kick so much. The baby moves like so often. They're super active, and that's really exciting, and you can like see it on the outside now, which is super cool. And like Gavin's been able to feel the baby move, and I caught the baby on video and like sent that to my siblings and to my mom and my mother-in-law, and so that's been super awesome. And yeah, so we're like 6 weeks away from the 3rd trimester, which is insane. And yeah, and so from here we just like really need to get the nursery set up and like get everything in its place and get ready for the baby to be here. And we'll have some like training sessions with our doula, and we'll have a birth class in January before the baby gets here, and then like showers and so much fun stuff, and the holidays are coming up, and yesterday was the first day of fall, so it feels like this big transitional phase in our life. And just like in the seasons, everything's kind of changing now, and we're getting into that cozy season where we can kind of like settle in and just become this new like family and just like nourish this life that we're growing, and it feels really exciting. And so yeah, so that is how my pregnancy has been. Relatively really uneventful, other than like moving and a few things here and there, but pretty healthy and great. Our baby looks so healthy, and we're so blessed and lucky that everything's going smoothly. So yeah, so feel free to like this video if you did like it and enjoy it, and comment down below any questions you might have about our plans, or you know, a birth plan, whatever. And yeah, subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you guys in the next one.